Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foul Ball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing great. I hope that your New Year's celebration was excellent and that the new year is really shaping up to be a great one. This is my first stream of the new year. It's been a pretty uneventful week so far. 5 days into the new year. I've barely left the house. 2021 shaping up to feel a lot like 2020. But whatever, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the greatest science fiction show of all time, The Expanse. The Expanse. Are you guys enjoying this season? I know I am. I know I'm a little behind with my coverage. I typically try to do this, day of, or at least, somewhere within the, somewhere close to the date that it comes out, which I guess is today now for the next episode. So I'm a full week behind. But I apologize. The holidays kind of got in the way. I will try to be a little more punctual in the future. I did some streams over at Jake D's channel about this. I think last week, that's exactly what we did. Day of, we went to Jake's channel and had a long chat about it. If you're interested, I'm sure that's still up. It was a really good conversation. It's one of these shows I'll never really get tired of talking about. I think it's the greatest show ever. And I do think this season is wow, this season's really good. This season is really, really good. I still feel, and I made this point before, but I will reiterate it. I still feel it's kind of a strange choice to introduce the potential of aliens and alien worlds and then just not talk about that anymore. I just think that's wild, It seemed like it's a weird direction to go in. It's like you're going here and then you just made a right turn. You're like, wait, but what about all this? And they're like, no, the belt and Marco. You're like, okay. But the way it's shaping up this season, those might play into whatever Marco's nefarious plans are. At least that's how it's looking right now. But honestly, look, this is just like a taste thing or a preference thing. This is not a critique. The show is excellent. This season is excellent. I am enjoying it so much. It's amazing how the entire crew of the Roci is spread out, and I'm loving this season almost more than other seasons. Definitely more than last season. I'm loving it. I think I'm having an absolute blast watching this show. Yeah, well, I guess we can get started. I guess we can watch the video. If you've never watched one of these before, there's a watch party link in the description if you want to watch along while I talk about the show and share my thoughts and musings and insights and so on and so forth. If you want to watch along, please do. It's in the watch party links in the description. And please press like on the video if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. Lots of good content coming down. Lots of Expanse-based content. I'll probably put out another episode of the MFer soon, talking about God knows what. But thanks for joining. And I guess let's get started. Let's get started. So episode 5, Down and Out. Down and Out. Man, I gotta be honest. The stakes are pretty high. Pretty high, man. They're not messing around. They jump right into it this year. I mean, you've got 3 separate meteor attacks that are devastating. That like millions of people have been wiped out. Not even the proto-molecule was so devastating. Not even that nuclear missile that slipped through and hit in the Amazon basin was so devastating. This is the highest death tally count that we've had. Hello, Rajesh. Good to see you, brother. How you doing, man? Happy Tuesday there. And good to see you. I can't believe I said happy Tuesday. God, the guy in my building always says that, and I always roll my eyes when he does. Sorry for subjecting you to folksy colloquialisms that are boring. Rajesh is a good guy. He always hangs out in the chat. He's a good dude. Watching streams, hanging out with this little crew, this little rat pack we're creating with me and Jake and Vigilante and Thoth, Red Shirt. I forgot, this little crew we're making. It's fun. It's really fun. But yeah, man, they're not messing around this year. I mean, millions of people are dying like left and right. We don't know what's going on with the president. I mean, that whole They show at the end of this episode, the entire prison that is just gone. Just gone. It's not there. The only reason anyone survived from that was because they were down in the basement levels of it. It's the only reason they all lived. Everyone else was dead. It's crazy, man. It's crazy how high the stakes are this year. We got Kamina Drummer, my love. Although, she's not really much is happening with her this season, Not to say that it's like bad writing or something like that. It's just not really being utilized just that well, I feel. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, the stories, I guess they're just doing a lot of setup. But I love Drummer, and I want to see her doing things and being being the star. I love her. Yeah, it's just kind of it's not satisfying that Kamina Drummer itch that I have, which is she's just my favorite. She's my boo. I love her. And this season she seems a little more like subdued and kind of melancholy, and like instead of cocky and badass, which she normally is. I like how kind of like she's, like spunky and fun. This season she seems like a little more like depressed, a little more sad. I mean, I guess, okay. I mean, now that I think about it, she lost, what's his name? I can't remember. The guy David Strathairn played. The badass pirate with the scar on his face. I can't think of his name. But she lost him last season, and then this season she loses Fred Johnson. Yeah, I guess it makes sense that she's a little more melancholy and depressed. I guess that's in character. I didn't really consider that before I said all that stuff. Hopefully, I mean, I'm really curious to see where this is all going to go. Where are we headed? We've got everyone spread out. Everyone's in very unique, perilous situations. I mean, at the end of this, is it this episode? Yeah, I think it's at the end of this episode where like the Roci almost gets blown up. Like, how are they going to bring this all together? I've said this since the beginning. I think it's going to have a lot to do with that stockpile of Martian weaponry that Bobbie has going on at her place on Mars. I got a strong feeling that shit is going to be implemented, and I really hope, I hope that it does. Here's something interesting. It's Expanse related, not necessarily about this episode. But I was listening to one of Gary from Nerdrotic's live streams yesterday, or the other night. I was listening to Inquisition, him and Doomcock, and Gary was talking about how them announcing that the 6th season was going to be the last season took a lot of momentum out of the hype that this season could have produced. And I thought that was a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about that at all, but I think he's 100% right. Or I think he's mostly right. I still think that there's interest in the show and that it can still, blossom and bloom into something really compelling. But regardless, he said that the 6th book is the weakest one, or is a weak book. And I was like, whoa, that sucks. I didn't actually know that. So I'm curious. Like, that was just a thought that's just like running through my head. It's like, oh wow, so they're gonna end on like the weakest book, on the weakest story. Huh. I don't know. I guess the reason I started thinking about that was because I'm hoping. I'm not gonna. No. I'm what I really want to see this year, as I would really love to see like Bobbie and Amos like in like Martian military gear, like whooping the shit out of people. Like, that would be badass. Have Alex and Holden on the Roci support. That's what I'd like to see. I would like to see some real like nitty gritty combat shit, because I know Bobbie's like the elite Marine, but I think in our heads, like, Amos is the real warrior. He's the real warrior. And I know the book pushes otherwise. I know the story suggests otherwise. But if I had to pick someone to defend my life, I think I would pick Amos. And his story this episode is the one that really stood out to me. This is the episode that I thought was like really, the storyline that was the most compelling. Like, I enjoyed everything else that went down, and everything I felt always interesting. But this one with him and what's her name? Clarissa Mao. Yeah, Clarissa Mao was like really fun. Really like I don't know, different. It was like, it just felt like this little side adventure that was going on that I just didn't anticipate. I didn't anticipate walking into the season. I think I anticipated it at the end of the last episode, but I thought it was a really fun little story. And it was interesting to see Amos straight up calling the shots because we don't really get to see that. Hey, Lard Thoth. Hail, my good man. How are you doing, sir? Hope that your Tuesday's going well. It's good to see you as always. As always, we got a new episode of The Expanse soon, coming out in a few hours, I believe. So hang tight, buddy. Hang tight. Hopefully we'll be able to chat about it this week. No, I did. I like to try to get Lord Thoth on the channel, just me and him chatting about it, because Thoth is a fascinating commentator on this show. One of my favorite. Yeah. But it's interesting that they did in this episode too, was the body modification stuff. They don't really get into that much in this show. And it's interesting because I feel like it's something that a lot of science fiction, modern science fiction especially, kind of investigates. Like in Altered Carbon, it's really wild, like how intense the body mods are. I mean, you literally can go into a completely different body. That's a good book, by the way. If you've never read the Altered Carbon book, it's really good. I mean, it's a series, but the first one's awesome. It's something that I never noticed the absence of in the show. I never like, why don't they talk about body modifications? But now that they like have it, it's like, oh yeah, that does seem weird that it's not here more often. I feel like it's something that I've only literally seen used with Clarissa. And I guess the explanation is that it's very dangerous and they're not really that progressive yet, which is interesting. But I wonder, it seems a little, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to introduce because now you're kind of forced to utilize it, right? I mean, now you can't just be like, oh, this is here, but we're not going to explore it. It's like, all right. I mean, it's just for this one sequence. That seems a little, I don't know. I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm just saying if that's what they do, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, this whole sequence with the guards and Amos, and then the guy Tiny, that was great. That was really good stuff. I thought that character was interesting. I liked him when he was first introduced. I thought he was funny, and then I thought he leaned into it a little too much. The actor did. I thought he was pushing a little too hard at times to be like this kind of robust character. I think if he had toned it down just a little, just dialed it back just a little bit, I think it would have been more compelling. Because it seemed like he was like, I'm a character. I'm goofy and weird, Because it was funny, like when he first is introduced to him or whatever, he says something like bonjour or whatever. And it was like, oh, this guy's going to be fun. But then he pushed it a little bit. But he was very menacing. Very menacing indeed. Him and Amos's competition was pretty intense because it's the first time you've ever seen Amos physically outmatched. Never seen it. He's always this brute brawler, giant dude who is a little more muscle than brain, but you never feel like he can lose a hand-to-hand fight. I mean, in this show alone, this season alone, I guess episode 1 or 2, they show him beating the ever-loving shit out of 4 or 5 belters all by himself at one time. So it's it never really, that was never a question as to whether Amos could take care of someone by themselves. And then now they really now he's met some guy who's way stronger than he is. Like his physicality is not an advantage at all. So let's see what this actor's name is. This actor's name is Boomer Phillips. Boomer Phillips. This guy who plays Tiny. He's good. He just needs to tone it down. He's playing a little cartoony, I feel. Which kind of takes you out of it a little bit. I think if he was a little more grounded and a little less cutesy, it would have been more enjoyable. But look, acting is very difficult. I'm not criticizing the guy. I'm just saying it just didn't really work for me. Let's see what Boomer Phillips is all about. He's only 6'1". They make him look like he's 8 feet tall. He's 37. Oh, he doesn't look 37. Oh, he's got a pretty long IMDb. He's been in a lot of stuff. Oh, he's in that show Letterkenny. That's supposed to be a really good show. I've never watched it. His character's name is Boomtown in Letterkenny. He's in 12 episodes. Huh. All right. Well, he's a gigantic guy, just the same. I'm surprised he's 6. They must have put him on like stilts or like apple boxes or something like that to make him look, because he looks like he's about 6'8", which is how he probably should look. Because how tall is Wes Chatham? Wes Chatham's like 6'1". Right. It doesn't have it on IMDb. 5'11". Oh, okay, 5'11". But still, there looks to be a more significant difference. I'm not going to harp on this topic for much longer. It's not that interesting, is it? No, it is not. Okay. I want to address something. This happens at the end of the episode, but I just want to get into it right now just because I think it's the most controversial thing that happened this episode. So after all this shit goes down and they have this girl in custody, Sakai, I guess they're beating the shit out of her or whatever. And she was the chief engineer working on the Rocinante, right? So after they get as much information out of her as they can, they're going to go on a hunt with the Roci, right? It doesn't make sense that Holden would not have double-checked the Rocinante, because this woman who betrayed everyone on this station, double-crossed, her boss, double-crossed her people, kind of, was the head engineer working on the Roci. How could you trust that what she was doing was the right thing to do? And if it was something like, she was getting away and he ran and hopped in the Roci and then he made that mistake, that's fine. He's had what looks like to be a day or two, or at least hours, because he's all relaxed. He's not going anywhere. They're not like addressing emergencies. He's had a lot of time to think about everything that's gone on. I do not believe someone as intelligent and like social, or what's the word, situationally aware as Holden would overlook this. I think this is a mistake, and I think it comes a little bit out of plot convenience, to be completely honest. I think, because the more I've thought about it, I think that they use it to connect him and Naomi so that he knows what's going on with Naomi's kidnapping. Because it's the only thing that makes any sense to me. There's no way he wouldn't have thought about this. In the last stream, when we talked about it last week, I was like, if you worked on a U.S. Army base and there was a guy servicing your tank or your A-10 Warthog, right? And then you have that same guy in custody and it turns out he's a Taliban spy, would you just trust the work that he did? Would you be like, I mean, look, he works for the Taliban, but he wouldn't sabotage my tank. He wouldn't sabotage my plane. No, you'd be like, he almost definitely sabotaged my plane. I need to go check that out. So logically, this doesn't track. And I don't really see the argument against it any longer. For a minute, like when it first came up, you're like, oh, maybe he was excited. No, he's had a long time to think about this. Like so long that she's been in custody and then someone beat her up. That is a plot hole. That is a plot hole. And it comes out. It's utilized, I think, so that Holden could figure out where Naomi was. And I don't think it works. I'm just being honest. I call it like I see it. You guys all know I love this show. I would never lob undue criticism at this show. The more I think about that, the more, sorry, that's a plot hole. That's a plot hole. I'm pretty sure they do go through the Roci checks. I don't know, man, because at the end of the episode, he goes to power up the Roci, right? They're still showing shot. There's still shots showing the system checks. If they did, they slipped it by. It was really because the scene is played, the sequence is played like, oh no, the ship's sabotage, shut it down before it blows up, right? It's played to me like it never occurred to Holden that it could be sabotaged, right? She even pretty much warns him before he goes to the ship. She goes, wait, and then says, I'll see you when you get back or whatever. I just don't. It's running systems checks, but it's just running like a normal flight, like startup procedure. He's not double checking the work. He's not having someone else going over all the work that woman did with a fine tooth comb to make sure there's no bombs planted or the reactor's not going to detonate the second he turns it on. As far as the show depicts it, he didn't double check that. He didn't think it through. And I just think that's a plot hole. I just don't see how that makes any sense. The only way it would make sense for me if it was something like in the heat of the moment, he had to rush out to go to the Roci before he had time to think it through. But he's had time to think it through. And he's so connected to that ship. Like the people who repair the ship, it's such an important part of the show. It's been an important part of the show this whole time. It doesn't make any sense to me that he would have overlooked that. I mean, if someone presents a salient argument as to why, maybe. I'm not saying I couldn't possibly hear it. I'm just saying, as far as it looks to me, I don't think so. I think it's a mistake. There's one other thing that happened in this episode that didn't quite make any sense to me. And it was at the end. It was during the fight with Amos and Tiny. When he's got Amos over the elevator shaft and then he gets shot, he throws Amos to the side. Why? Why not just kill him now and get it over with? Well, I mean, you really wanted to savor it? I don't know. That's like supervillain shit. Just like in The Incredibles. You caught me monologuing, you sly dog. It's just like, he just got shot. Wouldn't you just toss him down the elevator shaft and then go deal with the woman? I mean, unless he had other plans for Amos, but I don't think he did. I think he wanted to just kill him. So that seemed a little bit of a stretch to me. And then Holden not knowing about, not thinking the Roci thing through seemed like a stretch to me. But these are not things that detract from my enjoyment. I'm not watching it and be like, ugh. You just think on it later, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, that doesn't quite work. And I understand that things need to happen. And when you're writing 10 episodes of a television show, they're all about 100 pages each, 60 pages each script. There's 10 episodes. That's 600 pages you have to write a year, in 1 year. Granted, you have a staff of writers. That's 600 pages you have to write, at least 600. And that's not considering drafts. That's not considering scenes that don't get made, don't get shot. 600 pages. And you have to write a story coherently through all that. And it needs to be, logical and has to progress correctly. And you have to have all the characters making decisions that play into each other. Things like this are going to happen on occasion. It's something that we all forgive as audience members, I believe. It's just something that it can't be your writing style, There are certain creators that, make certain movies about certain star battles that seem to just write purely from convenience. Their entire plots hang on convenience and coincidence. That's not the way they write. So I point these things out. I'm not shitting on the show. I'm just saying that's a hole. Logically, that's a hole. Chris Hatfield. I think it's to show how he is worried about the pro molecule getting out. He is so focused on stopping it from getting out. Like I said, I would believe all that stuff if he didn't have so much time to think. But he's clearly had time to think. If you go back and watch this episode, in the beginning, he's casual when he's talking to the girl, talking to Sakai. He's not running around like he has to get this information and he's running out the door right now. He's chilling on the station. it would have to occur to him at some point. Oh shit! Hey, is the Roci compromised? Yeah, I mean, Fred's dead. This is the woman that she hired. She, all this shit's going on. I can't just fly out on the Roci. Like, that's crazy. Because also the thing about the Roci was it wasn't in flying shape, right? Like, she had to rebuild a lot of it. Like, it took hours and hours and hours. It was a big point for him. It was a big moment. So sorry, unless you want me to believe Holden is stupid, but I don't. I don't believe Holden is stupid. I believe this is a mistake. Now, at that moment, the immediate threat is the person with the gun. No, I agree. I mean, this is going back to the tiny. This is it's going back to the tiny situation. Yeah, but then you're creating another threat, right? If you're dropping Amos, then you're giving him an opportunity to get you while you've got your back to him. From like a self-preservation point of view, it doesn't quite make sense. You would think throw him down the shaft and then go deal with her. I mean, I know you're right, but it does still seem like we have to give Amos an opportunity to fight this guy. So let's have him drop him off to the side instead of down the elevator shaft. Because he was right there. He had him over the thing. It wasn't like he would have had to take more steps. Basically, all he had to do was release him. But it's almost like he makes more of an effort to put him to the side instead of dropping him straight down. Look, like I said, these things have to happen sometimes. Sometimes you have to kind of force the hand of your fiction god to make the story work. It is difficult. You have deadlines. These things need to get shot. They come out every single year. I think this one came out in less than a year, right? I mean, definitely less than a year from when the last one came out. It was all shot before the fourth season ever came out. So it's a lot. I understand it's a lot. Sometimes you just got to make decisions. I think that's what it is. Chris Hatfield, that's a problem with the show. You don't hear what's going on in the minds of the characters like you do in the books. I don't know if that argument holds water here in this regard. Like I said, I think it's just, I mean, it may have been written different in the books. I don't know. I can't compare that scenario to the books as what is here now, but this does seem like a bit of a stretch. It was a woke scene. It was there to have her save him in that call. Yeah, I hope not. I hope that wasn't their motivation. I would hope not. I mean, you might be right. It might be something like giving the woman the opportunity to be the hero instead of the guy. But they did need to connect somehow. Eventually, Naomi and Holden needed to connect so that the story could move forward. I look at it more like that. It might be that, but I honestly look at it, it's more just there. We got to get the story moving somehow. So this is how we're going to do it. But it showed how useless Amos was against him before. Still seems like a risk. Buzz Nacho. Still seems like a risk. It was, okay. Hatfield's saying it's different in the books. Yeah. I mean, I believe that it was. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. These are not, these are just objective things that are observable by us. This is not like, fuck this show, it's stupid. It's just writing television is very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. And when you said you got 600 pages to write, you have a very limited time in which to write it. You have to make decisions that move the story forward. Sometimes little things are going to happen. It is what it is. The show still works. It's still interesting. I still think it's good. But these are flaws, objectively. I mean, they just are. Like, it doesn't logically track that. Like I said, the only way is that Holden was either stupid or too caught up in what was going on, and in which case, it makes him a little bit of a weaker hero, in my opinion. Like I said, I think both these decisions are just there to move the story forward. I think that's it. I don't think it makes them bad writers. I don't think it makes the show bad. I just think it had to happen so the story can move forward. That's it. I don't want to, I'm not trying to, this is not hate. This is just like, I mean, like I said, it would have worked if the time frame was condensed with Holden, and I think it would have worked if with Tiny and Amos if he wasn't standing right over the elevator shaft. That's it. So back to the show that's presently happening. Oh, right. This was kind of a weird scene too. I feel like I'm criticizing the shit out of this show, but I'm not. I love it. I'm having a blast with it. This is that scene where Naomi is confronting Sin. I guess his name is Cyn, Sin. About how when she left her son, why did you let my son get involved with Marcos? Just kind of like, why did I let your son grow up wrong? I mean, was I his father? Was I supposed to protect the kid? That's just a weird point of view from Naomi, but I mean, she has a point. She does have a point there. It's kind of like, I couldn't stay because I would imagine her life was in danger because Marco is clearly a psychopath or a sociopath. He's got issues. So I would think that probably this was like the best case scenario, the best possible person that she could trust with that, with the livelihood of her son. It's reasonable. I just don't think she should have been so accusatory. Buzz Nacho. I think if they explain the Gamara code could never have been discovered without knowing specifically that it was there, then it could work. Otherwise, I agree it's a miss. Yes. That would have been that's a perfect example, Buzz Nacho, of a way to have made that work. Where like if Bull was doing the diagnostics, and it's like, yeah, we figured out, we fixed this. It looks like it's okay. I think you're ready to go. And then Naomi's call comes through and it's something that they couldn't have tracked. You're right. Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just something like that. Some way of fixing it. I think it's a reasonable thing to say. And that's a reasonable, I think that would have been a good, like a little throwaway line to have made it work. Thought. Yeah, I agree. These are just nitpicky things that could have been fixed with a toss away line. Like, we check the ship, all systems go, oops, looks like a hidden code we missed. Yes, precisely, guys. Precisely. And that's all these things are, really. They're just little flaws. And the thing is, this show does everything so exceptionally well. It does good casting. It does great writing. It does exceptional production design. The special effects on the budget they have look amazing. Like, it is such a well-executed show on so many levels that pointing this out, it doesn't even detract from the show. It's just an observation, Like I said, the show's writing style is not contrivance or convenience. The show's writing style is integrity. The show's writing style is good storytelling and consistent, elegant, large-scale, like, story. It's genius on so many levels. So, for us to point these things out, it doesn't detract from the show at all. It's just an observation, just something that happens. Like I said, when you've got to bang out 600 pages of script in a year and you need to shoot these things and you got to get the pages, it's a lot. And you got to move the story forward. You can't meander. It's a lot of things. Someone is blasting music outside of my window. I wish they would stop doing that. It's quite distracting. But we are in the elevator shaft sequence. This was a sequence that stood out to me the most, I think, in this episode. I think I mentioned that earlier, but it was the one I was having the most fun with. I mean, I really did like it. And you knew from the beginning, that Tiny and Amos were going to have a confrontation. Like, you knew it was going to happen. And it was like, oh, okay, like what? And it was the first time I was nervous for Amos. I'm like, how's he going to do this? And him doing that, like, I think Draco called it a suplex. Him just like throwing him like with judo, like that was so cool. That was so badass. And it was interesting was Amos kicking him in the balls. I don't think we've ever seen Amos do anything like that. It was very like brutal, like Krav Maga, like just disable your opponent any way possible. Like, don't, there's no elegance in fighting here. Kill him because he's going to kill all of you. And I really liked the scream that the character let out because it was a really visceral terror scream. It wasn't like a lot of action movies are always like, they're like, oh no, or like they'll get their hand cut off and they're like, oh no. And it's like, no, you'd be screaming. You scream like an agony because your hand got cut off or you got thrown down an elevator shaft and you're about to die. You would just be pure terror. And it's I really like when shows get that right. I love when they nail those little details. Like, I don't know if you guys ever seen that show Ozark. Pretty good show. The gimmick gets exposed really quick, though. Like, into the second season, you're like, okay, all right, this happens. Problem solved, quick, bing, bang. All right. But there's a scene in season 1 where Jason Bateman's character gets his toenails and ripped off, or his fingernails ripped off with like a pliers, and he's just like, oh no! It's like, no, dude, no. We're talking about some of the most agonizing pain you could ever feel. You'd be screeching like a banshee, dude. Like, that's a bad. I don't like when choices like that are made. Like, I don't know if that's a fear of vulnerability from the actor or if it's just a lack of touch from the director, but I find it so much more interesting when the character has that genuine terror screech. Thoth. Sometimes when your life is on the line, you got to fight dirty. Yeah, exactly, man. No points for style when you could die. You know, you just got to get out of there alive. It's like in that scene when Game of Thrones was good in like season 1 or 2 where Peter Dinklage's Tyrion is in the Vale and they're in the Moon Tower, and then the Bronn beats the guy and she goes, "You don't fight with honor," and he goes, "No, he did," and he's like, he fell down to his death through the Moon Tower. It's like, yeah, I mean, this is a fight to the death. You know, there's no points for fighting with you know. Hey, look who it is, the Mighty Wrench, Eric K. Hello, good sir. Lovely to see you on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you're doing very, very well. So now here is another sequence of contention. We were discussing this on the last stream last week when we talked about it on Jake D's channel. So Naomi grabs the knife, from the mess hall and slips it through her sleeve and is gonna stab Marco to death. And right before she does it, her son grabs her. Philip grabs her. Now the question is, did Philip notice the knife? Hard to say, because the show, he doesn't, because from this moment on, Philip does not acknowledge the knife, right? But he grabs her when she's got the knife like back, like she's about to stab him, right? Big question here. For me, the way it was shot, I would have to assume he would have noticed the knife, but the way they play it afterwards, he doesn't acknowledge the knife at all. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Philip noticed the knife, or you think Philip didn't and just took her off the bridge? I think it was played like he did, so I can't. I don't know. I think looking back on it, my opinion is we were supposed to believe Philip didn't see her going back to stab him and that he just pulled her off the bridge before. But I think the show did a poor job of showing that, because it looks like he grabs her arm to stop her from stabbing Marco to death. So I don't know. That was something that came up as well as another kind of a questionable decision by the show. But I really do want to underline and highlight how these decisions stand out, because everything else is done so excellently around it. That the only reason we even notice these things is because of how good all the other decisions are, all the little moments that stand out are. I mean, all the other moments that they execute, how perfectly they do it, and why these stand out. That's literally the only reason these come up. Buzz Nacho. Philip definitely didn't notice the knife. Doesn't acknowledge it. She tucks it back in. Knife shows up later when it falls out as she hits Sin with the wrench. Yes, I think you're right. I believe that is what the show was going for. I think they could have done a little bit better timing wise. I think that they allowed her to pull all the way back for the dramatic choice, but from just a editing, like just from a storytelling point of view, bit of a stretch in my opinion, bit of a stretch, but it works though. It still works. You can just imagine, okay, it looked more dramatic from our point of view and, he didn't see it. No one saw it. They just pulled her off. Okay. Tad manipulative on the audience though, because it does look like she's got her arm back and is about to stab him. So little bit manipulative, but like I said, these little details stand in such contrast because of how good everything else on this show really is. Okay, so now we are at the sequence that is another contentious one, right? So we're right outside where Tiny's got Amos, and look, he's walking him all the way to the elevator shaft, and then I guess he's not quite there yet. So he gets shot, drops, turns around, and then he kicks him in the nuts and then does the back. Oh, that is so cool. Oh, I love that. Just suplexes him down the elevator shaft. And Amos almost fell too. Like guys, even watching it now, it's not crazy unbelievable. It's not like, oh, you're not rolling your eyes. You're not hating on it. It just seems like it's weird. Like Tiny's reactions were very strange. Like his first reaction was to just drop him. And then the next reaction was to turn around and be like, whoa. It's like instead of like moving quick or like using Amos as like a human shield or tossing Amos down the shaft and then going down the shaft himself. Like it just seemed like he had zero survival instincts in that moment. So it's just weird, I guess, to watch him drop Amos and then just stand or turn around and just like get shot. I don't know. I guess that's all really. It's just a little off, just a little weird. And I guess those moments stand out in this show just because you're like, oh, it just leaves like with a little bugaboo, a little weirdness in your like obviously you're like, huh, what was that about? What just happened there? That's all. But these are the first things I think I've even criticized this entire run. He was just shot. Look, man, if you think what I'm saying is crazy, that's fine. It's totally your opinion. I just think it stuck out to me as a little weird. You know what I mean? Like there was just it didn't seem shot like, oh my God, I'm gonna die shot. It just looked like you shot me. How did you shoot me? I don't get shot. He just stood there and got shot more. So it was just kind of just weird. Like, what's your plan, Tiny? Like, are you just going to absorb all the bullets until she runs out? Or are you going to try to kill her? Or are you going to use Amos as a shield? Or what are you doing? I don't understand. Why are you just taking bullets? Jake D in the house. Hail, Jake D. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, my friend. Gang's all here. Love it. Love it. Yeah. I don't know, just things that I just noticed. But like I said, these are the first moments I've noticed on this whole season. We're in the 5th episode. Nothing really seems like nothing has stood out where I'm like, nothing at all. This whole run. So these things stand out because everything else has been so excellent. Yeah, it's just I guess it's little stuff, but it's important to note little stuff. It's important to note little stuff because little stuff can collect. Little stuff can pile up and you get to so much little stuff, it becomes a lot of stuff, and it's important to observe. I think this show is excellent. You guys know it's one of my favorite shows of all time. I adore it. I think everyone should be watching it. I don't know why they're not, but still I'm going to call it like I see it. And it's important for us to be objective. Even when we love something, it's important to note if we're being fucked with, man. That's how they get you. That's how our favorite things become shit. They slowly, brick by brick, piece by piece, they take away little things and you forgive it and you forgive it and you forgive it until one day Arya kills the fucking Night King and dragons that were impervious to things are suddenly super vulnerable to it, and there's zombie dragons, and nothing makes any fucking sense. You know what I mean? You gotta be aware of this shit. You gotta be on top of it. You don't need to be unfair. You don't need to be cruel, but you do need to be objective and reasonable in your observations. That's my feelings on the matter. That's my Buzz Nacho. I got no problem with you mentioning what stood out to you. Just trying to argue that it objectively works. Yeah, I don't 100% agree with your conclusions though, but that's cool. I mean, it's like I said, it's not. These are not big deal things. I just believe we need to stay vigilant, my friends. Stay vigilant. Stay vigilant. Jake D, I love this episode. So looking forward to a new one tonight. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's coming down. It's coming down, bro. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And so here's the moment where we were talking about earlier, where Naomi cracks Sin in the face and then reaches out to Holden and saves him as he's powering up the Roci. And I think Buzz Nacho, your fix would have been that was the best. That was the best choice. One little line about how everything's good to go. We fixed the problems or whatever. But you know what? The thing is too, like this had to happen. Like we needed Naomi. We needed Naomi to contact Holden and they needed to connect because eventually her whereabouts have to be known. We can't keep Naomi kidnapped for the whole episode, right? I mean, this has to happen. Another thing I'm thinking about too, like not every show is directed by the same person. You know, television shows are shot with different directors a lot of times. Sometimes they use the same directors, but they don't it's not every episode is shot by the same director. So these little choices, these little things might have just been errors by that particular director or even that particular editor. You know, these are things. Films and television productions are such a collection. Oh shoot! Hold up. Sorry, guys. Someone's at the door. Getting a package from UPS. Sorry about that. It's a collection of so many different people's contributions, so many different technicians that go into making a television show. Like. The fact that it comes together at all is often a miracle. I mean, I've been a part of a lot of productions and a lot fell apart or you never saw the final product or whatever. It's like, it's a lot to make a TV show. It's a lot more to make a good TV show. And it's almost impossible to make a show as good as The Expanse is. So these things, all these criticisms come with love. All these criticisms come with like appreciation and a love and respect for the show. But, you know, we still got to be fair. Gotta be fair. Still got to point it out. Am I getting Expanse swag? No, not this time. Not this time. I gotta control myself with some of that stuff. You know, I gotta keep it between the lines. Not to say I wouldn't like more. I definitely do. I definitely want some more Expanse stuff. You know what I wouldn't? I don't build models. But I would like to build like a scale model of the Rocinante with like glue and all that shit. I used to do that when I was a kid. That would be cool. If I could build a model of the Rocinante, I would be down with that. Or like a Lego Rocinante, that would be on. That would be on. Finally received that life-size Mera doll. I mean, that's funny. I don't know what a Mera is. Mera, what is Mera? What does that mean? Life-size doll. No, I would never do that. Okay, shut up, Eric, jerk. Oh, this was badass. Oh, that's right. The way this episode ends is intense, man. So they've got so that they learn. Bobbie and Alex learn that what Mars is selling is ships to Marco's army. Navy, and that's like the big arms trade, right? And so they're catching it, and then they get caught while they're like staking it out, and they just gotta book it, and then they get attacked, right? And then they get attacked, and like right before they get attacked, Alex has this brilliant idea to drop the core, and then the missile hits it, and it just sends the Razorback spinning off into space. Oh, wow. This episode ended intense. Really, really intense. This was dope. This was really dope. Eric, did you upgrade to abuse feature? We've got to watch out for the bed too. You know, I don't appreciate these shots at my character. This is not the type of channel I run. This sort of crude, childish humor. Jake D. I was looking for a Roci to buy and I couldn't find one. I know. Me too. Why are there no Roci? I was going to say Roci dolls. Thanks, Eric. Thanks.
Well, jeez, guys, you know, just trying to put on a little Expanse entertainment. You make fun of me. Oh, man. Oh, gosh.
And what'd you say here, Jake? You said it wasn't as good as episode 4, but it was outstanding. Yes, I that was my conclusion as well. I mean, this is the first episode I've even had any issue with, really. This is the first time I've looked at anything that's gone on this show and been like, nah, I don't know if I buy that. That's it, but I don't know if I buy that. But that's it. That's that episode, man. Are we piling on? No, leave me alone, guys. You guys are jerks. That's episode 5. We got another episode coming out in like a few hours. I guess it's like whatever it is, Greenwich Median Time. What is that? What's that? Greenland time, whatever the hell it is. It's coming out soon. There's a new episode coming out soon. And join me then later on today when all these jerks come and tease me. Wasn't a life-size doll, okay? It wasn't. I mean it. But yeah, come back and check me out later today. We'll do another stream. Maybe I'll get one of these knuckleheads on there to talk about it. We'll see. But that's going to do it for episode 5. I appreciate you guys watching. As always, press the like button if you haven't. It means a lot. Helps the YouTube gods. You know the whole thing. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'll check you guys out soon. Pleasure to see you all. And as always, Jake D, Thoth, Eric, Chris, Nacho, Rajesh. You guys are all awesome. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one.